Hello and welcome to the Blackpool FC Preview Show. I'm Jed Mills and here's what's coming up on today's episode. We'll reflect on Blackpool's midweek performance against Coventry. Gary Medine shares his thoughts on the season so far and his return to training. We'll hear from Neil Critchley as the Seasiders prepare for their long trip down to Bournemouth this weekend. Plus Academy Director Kieran Donnelly gives us an update on the youth team. Well, joining me today in the studio to make his debut on the Preview Show is this man.
Burgess heading it on. Burgess! Sensational.
Little chip to the middle and Burgess muscles in.
Burgess lays it off to Jorgensen. His cross. Poor header. Burgess. Oh, what a goal from Burgess. Right-footed volley. Last chance perhaps. Long ball by Craney. Oh, this may fall for Burgess. Yes, for Blackpool. In stoppage time.
Well, I'm delighted to welcome into the studio former Blackpool striker Ben Burgess. Well, Ben, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the Preview Show. Let's touch on Coventry midweek. Yep. It was another defeat for the Seasiders, but plenty of positives to take from the game. Let's just touch on the goal first, because that's been a big talking point, of course, for the week. What did you make of it, seeing it?
Yeah, well, first of all, it was great to be back amongst the fans. It was really good. I love that atmosphere. But the goal, it seemed like Blackpool obviously didn't have the greatest first half, but it was almost like they'd weathered the storm, and you're thinking, come out second half, and then the first half seemed to go on forever at the end, and then you're thinking, is he offside? Is it a handball? I think on closer inspection, it might have come off his arm a little bit and then hit his face, but it's the worst time to concede a goal, and you'd felt Blackpool had just done enough to survive that first half.
Like you say, it was always difficult, I think, for them to see whether or not it hit the arm, but it was more, I suppose, the offside. How frustrating can that be as a player, and how hard is that to pick yourself up? Plus, as well, the question mark over how long was added on for when that goal got put in.
It seemed like everything went against Blackpool there, and it is frustrating, but these things happen. It happened all the time before you used to have VAR and things, and obviously we don't have that, but it's just part and parcel. And as a striker, I always wanted goals scoring anyways, but yeah, it can be frustrating, but you pick yourself up from that.
Do you sort of go with the flow of what goes around comes around, and Blackpool may get a bit of luck later in? Do you believe in all that?
I'm sure they will. And to be honest, you sort of make your own luck as well. And Coventry had a lot of chances, and I thought they were very strong in that first half. So you can sort of say that you make your own luck, and I'm sure it will even itself out for Blackpool.
The positives in this game is obviously Blackpool came into it, like you said, no doubt about it. Coventry had the better of that first half, looked really good, especially up front. Blackpool came into it, that'd be a real positive for Neil Critchley, and had plenty of opportunities to not only get a point, but potentially get all 3 points.
Yeah, definitely. I think the ability to stem the tide is a good thing, and obviously he spoke to his players at half-time because Coventry looked really strong and they were getting on the ball in dangerous positions. But then in the second half, it was just Blackpool sort of turned it on a little bit more. They started keeping the ball, and you could see there was a couple of times where they kept the ball and they came out and went round the other side, and Neil Critchley was actually standing up and applauding his players. Might not have worked, but that you could see that's what he wanted. Be a bit more patient, keep the ball, get it out wide, and obviously Bowler on the wing is just lightning. And he did fantastic. There was a couple of times he put some great crosses in, and it was when they kept the ball, because I felt in the first half it was just a lot of the time it was long balls because they couldn't get out, and that's not really going to suit Yates and Lavery. But second half there were some great chances, and it's good. Even though the goals aren't going in, you've got to still be creating chances.
Yeah, I mean, that's a massive positive, is it? And it's still a big learning curve, isn't it? A step into the Championship. I remember 2007, you did it yourself. Yeah. You went from League One into the Championship. I mean, how much of a difference is that division?
It can be a big difference, and I think it probably gets bigger every year because the teams coming down are huge, and so many of the teams that are in the Championship have had the parachute payments, so it's just sort of a different level. But yeah, it can be a big jump, and what you'll find, sadly, some players won't make it. Some players won't be able to take that step up, where others might surprise you, and they can. But you'll find that out as the season goes, and it's about getting in the experienced players that have done it before, and just believing in themselves a little bit.
Is that what you think it takes to stay up in the Championship. It's going to be a tough season. Everyone knew that beforehand. It wasn't going to be as joyous as it was last year. There's going to be plenty of defeats, but it's all about taking lots of positives from those defeats, I suppose.
Yeah, and when you look at last season, Blackpool didn't start the season great, and there was a lot of new players. And again, this year the team's quite different from last year, and I'm sure there's still going to be players added to it. And it's about the players that are in now learning how Neil Critchley wants his team to play, and the more games they play, the more training sessions they have, I've no doubt they'll come good towards the end of the season. And it is just about grinding it out. And sometimes, like for example, the Bournemouth game coming up, we used to love those games where you go to the supposedly bigger teams and upset them. There's just no one's expecting anything from you, and they were fantastic occasions.
What about obviously that season you went up? When we look back at the record, it's exactly the same as it is now. There was 2 defeats and a draw. I think it was against Norwich. But what was there sort of a desperation to get that win? And I suppose is that the hard thing is not to sort of be too desperate to win, push everything forward, to kind of stick to the plan. Yeah,
definitely. You can't force these things. You always want to get that first win, but I think if you believe in how the team plays and you believe in those players around you, it's just about, it will come, and that first win will then prove to the players that they can do it. And great thing about Neil Critchley is, you saw it all through last season, it doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. And that will be really good for the players as well, because just like when they were winning everything last season, he wouldn't have got too high and overconfident. Whereas when things aren't going well, he's not going to get too low. And that's what the players need. The players need to see that calmness on the sidelines and the belief in them.
Thanks for watching a snippet of this week's preview show. To watch the full episode in the build-up to Saturday's game at Bournemouth, simply purchase the Tangerine TV monthly subscription for just £1.99 a month to watch even more exclusive club content.